I was trying to figure out where to start this, and I guess your press release said you were rebuilding on strength, perspective, and true grit, correct?
Yeah.
Did one mean more than the other to you?
Um, I I would say perspective, honestly, because when something really terrible happens, you kind of see it in one way, but it was really about the change in perspective of how I saw it. I would say that, and strength, I would say would be the next one beyond after that.
Perspective meaning your whole life, or perspective meaning how your life changed when you had the accident?
Perspective on the accident itself, how that affected my life essentially, and then I would say perspective on my life, on the direction I wanted to take my life.
Prior to the accident, what did you want to do? I know you wanted to be a singer-songwriter. Did you want to keep doing that, or did you want to do something else?
Before the accident, I wasn't really sure what I really wanted. Like, I always knew I wanted to be, on stage or doing something. And the thought of singing honestly scared me. And I didn't think I could actually do it. Like, I've wanted to do it since I was a kid. I've always been in musicals and plays and stuff like that. But I was like, oh, there's no way I could do that professionally full time or anything. And then after the accident, it was like, well, why not? Why couldn't I do that? I have all the skills and talents that it takes. So it definitely just showed me that it's like, okay, well, I only have one life to live. Like, I might as well go for the thing that I really truly want in this world. So, yeah.
And singing, how young were you? You remember when you heard a song, or how did you know that you wanted to be a singer?
I don't know exactly the age. I remember being pretty young, but I was always really nervous of it because I would sing on my own and I would think I'm like, oh, I think I'm kind of good, but I'd be too scared to like share it with
Right.
anybody else in case someone was like, oh, you're not good. And then they would kind of like squash those dreams because my parents were quite like in business and finance and stuff like that. So they wanted me to, be a banker or whatever. So I was like, oh, I can never tell them what my dreams are because they're just going to tell me that they're not, I can't go for them or something like that. So I kind of just kept it to myself, but I would always do it in kind of like an indirect way. So I did a lot of like theater and like musical theater. So I'd be singing in that. And I did really well in that. I'd get solos and I'd get lead roles and stuff like that. But I was like, oh, this is just for fun. This is just like my my hobby or something like that. So yeah, it wasn't until just a couple years ago that I realized like, yeah, I definitely can do this full time.
When you began singing as a child, were you doing it partially for attention? Because all children are looking for more attention from their parents.
I mean, like I said, I kind of hid it away. So I didn't really do it as an attention thing. I just loved the feeling of it. Like I just loved the feeling of singing. Like it really does just heighten your mood and it calms your nervous system down too, which is kind of like a thing I do just like therapeutically sometimes. But it just felt good. I like to listen to myself. I love music in general. Sorry, my dog just came in. But yeah, so I was pretty young. I would say like 6 or 7, I would say, when I kind of was like, oh, I'd love to do this. But it was always just like, I wanted to be out there. Like I thought about acting, I thought about modeling, I thought about, dancing, all these different things. I was always in dance classes and stuff like that. So I was always kind of doing performance in like indirect ways, like socially acceptable ways, like to my parents
Mm.
essentially. But yeah.
And had you had any idols or anybody you looked up to at that point? Anybody you wanted to be, I guess?
Um, mm, I'm trying to think. Like there wasn't anyone specifically at the time. I think I just genuinely I loved like the people who were just like performers. Like I loved Rihanna, I loved Beyonce, like Britney Spears at the time. Like they were just these like icons that people just you said their first name and people just knew exactly who they were. And I was like, and Madonna was like huge for me actually. Yeah. I remember getting to in my grade 5 winter concert, I got chosen. They instead of doing like a song, they did like a mini concert for a Madonna song, and I got chosen to be play Madonna, even though I had brunette hair, and all the blonde girls were like, "She's brunette and she can't," But it's like I just put a wig on her, and then I was like dancing around, singing the song and everything. Like I just love performing and being on stage. So yeah, from young age, definitely. I would say Madonna was probably the one I like knew the most as a kid.
Are you comfortable talking about your accident?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Was it a car accident? Was it?
Yeah, it was a car accident. I don't love to go into like the specific details of it, but
Right.
essentially It was a car accident. It was like the most random, obviously, like, you know, nothing too crazy, but it was kind of like a pile up essentially that happened. And I was by myself at the time. I had just like gone to the mall to grab lunch and I was just on my way back home. I was like 2 blocks away from home. And yeah, it just, you know, was like, it was during COVID and I was supposed to get new tires, but I wasn't working. Like I had lost my job during COVID. So I couldn't afford to buy new tires. So my tires were really low on tread. So I just remember like sliding into the person in front of me and like the airbag went off and I was just like fully in shock. And yeah, I just, and then I like pulled off to the side. And then the other people, like their cars were like kind of okay. And one of them was an Uber driver. So he's like, I gotta get back, I gotta get my car. Like he had a passenger in his, he's like, he just kind of drove off and, you know, I'll exchange information. And then I was just kind of there by myself. I was like, well, what do I do? So I just like basically just drove home and my car was super smashed. Like it was not safe to drive at all, but I did. And I remember too, when I parked in my underground parking, I could hear this like hissing noise. So I was like, that's not good. So there was like a mechanic like just 1 block away. So I just drove it to the mechanic and I was like, what is this hissing noise? He's like, oh, you punctured like the toxic gas tank in it. And if you park it underground, like all this toxic gas is going to basically leak into your underground parking. So park it outside. So I did that. And then I went upstairs and I just like completely had a meltdown. I was just like, what the hell? Like my body was fully in shock. But then when I got upstairs and I was like, you know, I had time to kind of process everything that happened and just total shutdown, total meltdown. It was like, I was in so much pain. I like the adrenaline was starting to wear off. I could just feel like the pain in my body and called my adjuster right away, like my insurance person. And they were just, you know, like, how are you feeling? I felt so much like bodily pain essentially. So that was kind of the first thing that I was focused on with like physio and chiropractic was bodily pain. So no one actually ever asked me like, oh, do you have a concussion? Do you have like light sensitivity, sound sensitivity, anything like that? It wasn't until a few months later when the chiropractor at that clinic, there was a new chiropractor and he was the one who actually diagnosed me with the concussion. He was the one who was like, you've been coming in here for neck pain. And so he was the one who was like, you've been coming in here for neck pain and neck pain, shoulder pain for about 6 months now, or no, sorry, about 4 months. And he's like, you're not getting any better. Like, this is kind of strange. And then he's like, maybe, you know, he was like, it's got to be something to do with if your body's not healing, it's because your brain isn't telling it to heal properly. So then he started asking me questions about light sensitivity, sound sensitivity, dizziness, nausea. And at that point, I was like vomiting every day. I was incredibly dizzy. I was just couldn't focus in any capacity. It was like really, really awful. But that finally allowed me to go to the emergency room, get like an MRI, get a CT scan. They confirmed the concussion. And then I was able to get referred to a concussion clinic. So yeah, that is how the recovery started. And then that was just before summertime essentially. And then in the summer, we had like the worst heat wave in Vancouver we've almost ever had in 2021. And it was just terrible. Like I just couldn't move. I couldn't get out of bed. I had to go to my appointments. I remember just like walking, like I felt like I was fully disabled because it took me like 10 minutes to walk across the street. It was a really, really difficult time. And I couldn't like look on screens. I couldn't like be on my phone or my laptop or anything. So I was just like laying there in bed all the time, doing nothing basically, and just had my thoughts. So yeah, that was kind of where I'm like, I'm fighting to get back to this life, like a normal life, but like, is it even a life I really want to get back to? And that was when I was like, okay, you know what, if I'm going to fight so hard to get back to normal life, like it has to be a life I'm obsessed with, that I love. So yeah, that was kind of when I thought, okay, well, what does that look like? And singing, performing, like that was what I'd always wanted as a kid, but was always too scared to go for. And it's like, I've been living so small my whole life. Like I need to just go for it. I need to just believe in myself because I've always had the capabilities of it, but it really takes, that inner like confidence to really go for it.
And how long was the rehabilitation process? You mentioned summer 2021.
Yeah.
The actual process where you get comfortable enough to, because you've done some amazing stuff since then, between the charities and the OnlyFans and all of it. It's incredible.
Yeah, thank
How much time passes between that when you get that comfortable? Because you didn't seem like you were that comfortable before,
you. I would say so, like the accident happened like late 2020, like
right?
December 2020, essentially. And then it was that spring that I got diagnosed in 2021. And then it took me, so the summer was a complete write-off essentially. But then as the heat started to die down in the fall, that's when I was like, okay, I'm starting to feel a little bit more like myself. And I've always been a really like outgoing and ambitious, confident person. So it was just kind of like redirecting that energy to something that was like more meaningful essentially. But I didn't really start fully going for it. I would say about a year. It took me about a full year after the accident to like, okay, I'm going to start my OnlyFans. I'm going to start writing this song. I'm going to, start writing other songs. I'm going to start looking for producers for my music. Like that was around like late 2021, early 2020 this year.
And we'll do music first. When you write a song, do you get the lyrics first and then try and squeeze them into the music, or do you do the melodies, I guess? And
Yeah, for some of the songs, like the ones I'm currently writing, it's a little bit of both. But for that one particularly, it was the lyrics first because I love like I always grew up like journaling and writing. I love writing, and so it was like almost like writing poetry all the time. I've written poetry like my entire life, and then I was like, oh, these are basically just songs. Like I just have to change them around a little bit. And so yeah, that one particularly was I had written the lyrics because the lyrics were really meaningful to me. The song is about like a celebration of women, and I wanted them to be really meaningful. And then when I got into I started with working with a music coach, and she was the one who kind of helped me start to put together like the pieces of the melody and stuff like that. I had little like riffs of what I thought I wanted, but then when I finally got into the studio, that was when everything fully like came together. And we get to collaborate with the producer and the music what are they called, music technician, and you're like listening to the sounds that they have and you're like building on top of that, so it's a really collaborative process really at the end of the day. But yeah, I would say I usually start with the lyrics because for me like the sounds come from the words essentially.
and where can people find the songs now?
So my first single, Pussy, is on all major streaming platforms, but I usually plug the Spotify one. So it's on Spotify. That's the one I'm trying to get the most like, numbers and stuff on right now.
And do you even still make albums? I mean, I don't want to age myself, but is it just singles now? Do people
Oh
release?
yeah, I know. I'm working on an album right now. I just, I'm really enjoying the process of doing it. And something that I learned in my recovery, I was working with an occupational therapist, and she taught me about pacing, which is something that I like never really thought about when I was
Right.
growing up. Like I was so ambitious. My parents are both entrepreneurs. Like we're always just like go, go, go. I'm from Toronto, so it's a very like hustle city. And but when after the accident, and I would try to like get back to my normal life, and then I would get all these symptoms and I'd have to kind of go back. And so she's like, no, it's about pacing, it's about taking breaks, it's about going, taking a break, keep going. So now I really understand that. I really get the like there's no need to rush anything. I'm always like, oh my god, I have to get it out now, but it's like, why you can
Right.
take your time, you can enjoy the process of it. And I feel like I make such better work now because I just go slow and I'm enjoying it, and I get to really like dive into like the emotionality of certain things and just how things make you feel. And then also too, when you have time and space, you can put something down for a little bit, walk away, go for a walk, go do something completely unrelated, and get some other inspiration that makes it like 10 times better. So I love that process. I love taking it slow. And I think that's something really important to like, that's kind of part of my brand almost now, is like, I don't want to rush this anymore. I want people to know you can do something and take your time and enjoy the process instead of like trying to rush and get it out like right away. Because I know in this world we're all about like now, but I'm feeling like the opposite a lot of the times.
I don't know if I have my timeline correct, but from singing to OnlyFans seems like two different like extremes in different directions. Is that
Yeah.
supposed to be the same time, or is it?
So I've been a dancer, like a stripper,
Right, right.
since 2016. So that was, but I was always like behind the scenes. I never had an Instagram. I never like promoted anything. I would just go do my job, do my shows, and go home. And I'd always known about OnlyFans like since it kind of started, and I'm like, oh, that kind of could be interesting. But I was just really afraid to like put myself out there. So OnlyFans and singing overlaps in terms of like putting yourself out there online, showing who you are and stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm a sex worker, I'm an artist, I'm, you know, an activist for sex workers. And so it just kind of was all around the same time. And then also too, because of COVID, like we're making less money at work. So I'm like, well, I need another income stream. So I just started that. And I was dating someone previously, like in 2020 and 2021, who was like, if you make an OnlyFans, I'm going to break up with you. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'm not going to do that. And then we did end up breaking up for different reasons. And I was like, well, time to make an OnlyFans. So it just kind of all ended up happening around the same time. For different reasons though, but they both kind of had to do with like, I'm ready to put myself out there. I'm ready to go big in this world and, you know, not hide away anymore. Cause for years I just had no online presence really at all. So yeah.
You as a person, is it harder, I guess, to put out your physicality on OnlyFans to basically put out your soul as a singer? Does that make
Definitely the
sense?
songs.
Songs.
Definitely the songs. Yeah. I've always been super comfortable with my sexuality. I've never like shied away from that. But it's always been a very like in-person physical thing where I'm like connecting one-on-one with someone. But then with the OnlyFans, it's a bit different because I get to just like make content, you know, be on my own, and then I just put it out there. But it's behind a paywall, right? So it's not like every single person in the world is
Right.
seeing it for free. Like you have to pay, and I have like a pretty high subscription price, so the people that are there like really want to be there, and we're fans that I've had like from the clubs and stuff like that, so they were just like super excited and happy to be there, and they'd already kind of seen me in like a sexual context, so it wasn't like, oh my god, like me and Miranda is like doing OnlyFans. It was kind of like, yay, she's there now finally. Like I remember I was doing a coaching call with a dancer who's really big on OnlyFans now, and she was just helping me like figure out what it was. So on the call we go to set up my account, and like just the first second, as soon as I started the account, I got a subscriber, and I was like, oh my god, looks like people were like waiting for it almost. And
Right.
I didn't even think it was real. It was like, okay, you've created your account, you have one new subscriber. I was like, is that real? She's like, yeah, that's real. I was like, I thought it was just like a, you know, a tester or something like that. And she's like, nope, that's a real person who just subscribed to you, like is within the first 5 minutes. Basically, I hadn't even posted, promoted, like nothing. Like they were just, and I mean, I had kind of been like teasing it, like, oh, it's coming, like just wait, you know. So they were like ready and on it. So my fans are extremely supportive, and I feel really grateful for the community that I've created. Yeah.
For branding purposes, do people come to see more of your body, or you think it's personality?
Honestly, I would say personality 100%, because I have a very like natural body type, and I'm not that like typical stripper with like the fake tits and the big ass and like whatever. Like I have a really nice body shape, absolutely. But what I hear time and time again from people is they're like, we love your performances, we love your shows, we love that you make eye contact and that you're smiling all the time, and you know, you just look like you're having a great time. Like that's what I hear time and time again, is people just love to be kind of in my presence and my energy, essentially.
Right.
Obviously you're going to get the people who are like, oh, you're so hot, you're so beautiful, blah blah, but that's maybe like 40%, and then 60% is like, you know, that energy. And also it's people who are like coming back time and time again just to like sit and chat with you, you know, and we're like going for dances and we're just hanging out and we're just chatting and talking and stuff like that, because they're like, we just love your energy. Like, so I would definitely say personality is a huge part of it for me.
When you start your OnlyFans, or even now, what type of content do you shoot? Do you just do solo? Do you do boy, girl, girl?
I did solo for a little while, and then I started dating someone who was like super eager to create content with me. So now I do some boy girl stuff, and then we've sort of branched out into doing a little bit of like girl stuff with some of my other like some of my colleagues, essentially, which is just, it's just been so fun, because like I get to kind of live out these sexual fantasies that I've had, but then like make money from it. So I love that. But it's pretty broad, I would say, but it's usually just like one couple people. Like I'm not kind of bringing in like lots of different performers and stuff like that. It's just me and my partner, and then like maybe a couple other I've only done one girl scene so far, because I like the stuff that I make just with my partner and I, and then the other stuff is like I'm just, you know, slowly building it up. Like I said, I like to go slow and take my time with things.
And do your fans prefer the very well lit, crafted, perfect setup, or do they like the raw stuff?
It's a little bit of both. Like I like some of they do like some of the stuff where it's just like, you're filming in portrait on your phone and it's just you set it up in the bathroom and you're just like messing around or something like that. But then sometimes they're like, oh, do you have anything specific? And when they're asking for that, then I'll usually like set up a tripod with a ring light. It's nothing too big of a production, but it does at least just it still does look quite like amateur-ish in that sense, but it at least is like well lit and it's clear, you can see what's going on, there's not like background noise. Like this bed I had when I first got it like would squeak like just every single motion you would make. So I was like, oh, okay, this seems pretty amateur, but then we had to like fix that, and now everything is, I would say, like it looks amateurish. It's not like a set or anything like that, but it's I feel like the professional stuff, like people aren't really, it doesn't sell as well because people are like, well, I can just go see that on Pornhub. Like we want to see you feeling like you just, you're just in the moment, you just put your camera aside and you just like went for it. Like that's what people I've found have really enjoyed for sure.
And you do custom work, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. I love doing custom stuff. I love when people, because it's just so creative. I get just all these like really interesting requests. I've had people send me like scripts before that they want me to just recite with like a couple movements or actions here and there. And like, I love it because I went to acting school. So I'm like, this is like me getting to do my acting and stuff within it. And then they obviously pay like a higher premium for that too. But then you're also just developing like a deeper relationship with that customer as well. So I love that. And I just love the creativity of it where like who knows what's going to come up. Like I do have like limits, like I'm not going to harm myself or do anything like too risky, or OnlyFans has their like terms of service and stuff as well you have to stay within, but within that there's still so much to play with. So yeah.
Craziest request you got for a custom?
um some of them, like they're not too wild, they're just very specific. Like someone was like, okay, I want you to wear a dress with like this certain kind of underwear underneath and then like take off the dress and whatever, and I'm like, okay, like that's fine. Some of them, like I said, are like scripts. I say the scripts are probably like the weirdest ones, and they're like JOI. I'm not sure if it's like jerk off instructions. So it's like telling certain things, and they're kind of like dom sub in a way. So those can be really fun. Those are probably like the weirder ones, but I'm very open-minded. So I'm definitely not like weirded out by it. I'm like, let's do it. You're gonna, as long as you tip and pay the price, like I'm down for it. So yeah.
And you mentioned acting school.
Yeah.
How much different are you than the person people see on camera? How much of this is an act?
Um, Honestly, so when I was in acting school, I had a really hard time because I had grown up in this very like business culture, this like hustle environment, right?
Right.
Like I went to business school, I got my degree there. So I was this very like rigid person. And I would really like come alive when I was on stage. But then in acting school, you're like surrounded by all your peers. So it was like hard for me to come out of my shell. But when I finally did, it was me. It was like the me that's always been there that came out of my shell. Unless I have like a script in front of me and I'm trying to portray a certain character, like this is who I am, and this is, I'd say, like the most authentic self that I am. And when I'm talking to my friends, or I'm talking to an interviewer, or I'm talking to a client or a customer, like it's the same person essentially. I just have this like energy that I have. And yeah, like I said, unless I'm playing like a certain character, like specifically, it's just me and Miranda is one person.
And what is your OnlyFans handle?
It's I am Mia Miranda.
How did you get into stripping?
I actually Googled it, which is kind of funny, but I always knew like growing up that I wanted to be a stripper because I would go, like I got a fake ID pretty young. So I'd go to clubs and bars all the time and I would just be dancing. And I've taken dance classes since I was like really, really little. So I'd always just be dancing, whatever. And people, I remember like I would like close my eyes, just like get into the music, and then I open my eyes and there'd be like a crowd of people around me. And I was like, whoa, what the heck? Like, what's going on? And then I slowly started to realize like, oh, I could do this for a job. Like I could get paid for this. Like people would like pull me up onto the bar and I'd be dancing on the bar and people are like pulling out their phones and filming and stuff. And I was like, I could do this for a job. But I was living in Toronto, and in Toronto, I met someone who did that. And she was like, it's pretty dangerous out here. Like it's not really a
Right.
great thing to get into. When I moved to Vancouver, I was in this very like like business mode essentially. And then I kind of remembered like, oh yeah, like I wanted to make more money, or I was like doing my job. And then I was like, you know what, I really want to make more money. And I'm like, you know what, maybe I should look into dancing again. I literally just Googled how to be a stripper in Vancouver, and I found the agency and I did an amateur contest for them. And that was it. And then they loved me and they were like, when can you start? So
Right.
yeah, that was basically it.
Do you like doing lap dances?
I I don't mind them at all. Like I definitely love the one-on-one intimacy. I love that I can make a lot more money. I always like make people tip and stuff like that. They're very just like, it's just kind of like part of the job. It doesn't bother me, it doesn't faze me. Like I would say that's probably where I put on a little bit more of like the act, where I'm like, you know, trying to be a little bit more sensual or like whatever, because usually you're pretty tired, you're just like, oh, I just have to, you know, in your mind you're like counting up the money you're making, you're like, okay, I just want to make, you know, this much money tonight, okay,
Right.
that much. So like in my mind I'm kind of like not really as much into it, but then I'm putting on a little bit more of an act. But
Right.
it's just very mundane. Like I would say sexuality, sensuality, like it just comes so naturally to me. Like it's the easiest thing in the world. So I just, yeah, I just do it. And then, yeah, I'm happy with, and at the end of the day, and I count all my money, I'm like, yes, this is great.
Did you have a preference between, I guess, either go-go dancing, maybe topless or full nude? Did it matter?
I never did like go-go or topless or anything like that. Honestly, I would rather just do full nude because I know that that's going to get the crowd like the most riled up. Like I want to have like the best experience. I want to put on the best show. I like to go all the way. Like I'm like, let's go fully all the way. You know, let's do it all. Because otherwise people are like, we want more, and then I'm like, well, I can't do that, and then they just get like upset and kind of like
Right.
annoyed. So it's like, no, let's just, and in Canada too, it's fully nude and alcohol as well. So I like that aspect of it. And like, I don't know, I love my body. I'm so confident, I'm so proud of it. It's just like, let's go, like let's do it. Especially this one bar I work at, there's like a shower on stage, and so I love like going in the shower and just like getting all wet and like splashing people with the water and stuff like that. And you can't do that if you're wearing like underwear or something like that, you know what I mean? You have to be like fully naked. So yeah, I love that aspect of it.
And for you, a good show, is it being interactive or is
Mhm.
it all the correct moves matched to the beat and all of that?
Totally interactive. Like I would say a little bit of a mix of both, because like I grew up in dance classes, so I know like
Right,
simple
right.
choreography, I know stripper moves, stuff like that, pole moves, whatever. And I always, we get to pick our own songs as well. So for me, I love to like move to the beat and like drop on the drops and stuff like that. But then the way you're really making money is like you do some move and then you stare at someone and then you like crawl over to them and then they're like, oh my
Right,
god, she's looking at me. So it's like you
right,
show them that you're amazing, but then you're like connecting right to them, and that's just
right.
brings this amazing like energy to the shows for sure.
I'm guessing when you started OnlyFans, you had some regulars from your dancing subscribe.
Yeah, definitely. I have quite a few regulars that I will like see in the clubs and then we'll like message online and stuff like that too. So
How cool, strange, weird is it? Because I'm guessing now they get to have more of an intimate experience with you.
yeah, it can be like a little bit awkward sometimes because like on OnlyFans, you kind of like lie a lot. You're like, oh,
Right,
can't wait to see you tonight. Like, oh,
right,
when are we gonna fuck or whatever? But it's like that's never gonna actually happen. And then when you see them in person, it's like, you know, I'm lying, right? Like I don't actually say that,
right.
but they've been, honestly, they're so respectful. They've never pushed my boundaries in person. Um, so they kind of understand like the game essentially. Like they know that I'm not actually going to have sex with them or anything like that. Like I'm in a monogamous relationship. That's never been my game. Like full respect to people who do that, but it's never been my thing. And so when I see them in person, they're coming to see me at the club. So they know what the rules are at the clubs. They know, you know, what the contact rules are, if you're allowed to touch or whatever. Usually it's not contact. Um, so yeah, they are aware of that. And I've never had them be like, well, can you just come meet me outside? It's like, no, they know that they know not to ask that kind of stuff because they know what the answer is. And they don't want to like taint the relationship by making it uncomfortable. They're trying to push my boundaries because they know I can just back off and walk away and never talk to
Right.
them again. And they'd rather have that relationship with me instead.
What are your social media platforms?
So my Instagram got deleted like a week ago, which I'm so sad about, but I made a new account. I'm just gonna type it in the chat because it's like got So it's I am dot Mia Miranda. That's Instagram.
Okay.
And then my Twitter is the other one that I am building up. But Twitter also kicked me off as well. And every time I try to make a Mia Miranda account, it like kicks me off. So I had to do premium OnlyFans babe. So premium OF babe, essentially. That's my Twitter.
And at this point, is there any one part of this whole experience for you that surprises you maybe more than the other? I mean, because it seems like your singing is going the direction you want, and it seems like the OnlyFans is giving you a lot more confidence and making you obviously a living.
Mm-hmm.
So is that something that you want to perform, I guess, check out more, the sex worker side of it, or do you just want to concentrate on singer?
Honestly, I feel like they really go hand in hand. And because I'm such an activist towards like destigmatizing sex workers, I feel like continuing on with both of them because, you know, as an artist, as a freelance artist, like you need to have multiple income streams. So I think continuing on with both of them is a really good strategy. And also I'm like very proudly and openly a sex worker. And I think that is helping my activism by showing like, yeah, there are sex workers out there that are like just normal people or that they're artists or they can be whatever they want. There's no like one stereotype of what they are. And I feel like I'm by like advocating for that and standing up as who I am, I'm like showing people, I'm kind of like breaking that mold, essentially what people think a sex worker is. It's like, no, they can be an artist, they can be a singer and a dancer and a performer and, you know, entrepreneurs and artists and activists and all these different things. And it's not just one thing. It's like, there are many, many different things.
Tell me about Wish, the
Pardon
charity.
me?
Tell me about Wish, the charity.
Wish, yeah, Wish is an amazing charity. So they are a drop-in center for the street level sex workers of Vancouver. So they have amazing resources. They have like hot meals, they have showers, they have like places for people to stay overnight. And they have like an outreach van, so they're able to like go out and help people in like crises essentially. They're an amazing organization because there really isn't any other support for street level sex workers in Vancouver. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with like the downtown east side in Vancouver, but it's a really rough area. And these are people who are doing survival sex work, essentially. Like this is kind of their only option. And so Wish is essentially providing them resources that they can't get anywhere else. And I actually was just reading a story in their newsletter that they have that they had a participant who has now become like a facilitator essentially for them because they provided enough resources to help them get back on their feet, like career training and just connecting them to different, you know, like educational resources essentially. And now this person has been able to get off of the street and get into housing and now work for the organization that she was, you know, first started like coming to herself. So it's just amazing to see how they are like supporting these people because they really don't have anything else. Most homeless shelters or other shelters for people on the downtown east side, like they discriminate against sex workers. So it can be really difficult for them to find any support at all. But I just love the work that they're doing. And yeah, I love getting to like participate in any way that I can, whether it's volunteering or just like donations or just like sharing their stuff that they're doing, sharing their like fundraisers and things like that, and anything I can do because I really love what they're doing. I think it's so important, especially for the specific area that they're supporting as well.